Hello, fourth grade. Today we're going to read a passage called A Frog Prince. It is a retelling of the Brothers Grimm fairy tale. Before I begin, I'd like to review a word. This word is promise. So, a promise is when a person tells someone that they are going to do or give them something. So one person promises another person that they will do or give something. They are assuring them of something. Here we begin. There once lived a young princess who hoped to one day marry a handsome prince. One afternoon, she dropped her golden ball into a well. Inside the well was a talking frog. "Will you bring me my ball?" she asked him. "Yes, if you'll let me eat from your plate," he said. The princess promised, and the frog got her ball. So here in this picture, we see the princess. Excuse me. And we see the frog and we see the ball. The ball went into the well, and the princess asked the frog to get the ball. The frog said, "Sure, I'll get the ball if you let me eat from your plate." Let's see what happens next. Just before dinner, something croaked at the castle window. It was the frog. "May I dine with you?" he asked. The princess gave the frog his own plate. "You promised to share your plate," he said. "Yuck!" she yelled and tossed him outside. So she did not keep her promise to the frog. The frog returned the ball, but the princess the princess did not allow the frog to eat from the plate. Instead, the princess tossed the frog out the window. Years later, the princess was snacking by the well, wondering who to marry, when she heard the frog's voice. "You promised," he said. The princess remembered throwing him out the window. Perhaps she'd been mean. "Come eat with me," she said. The frog hopped up. The princess shared her plate, and the frog turned into a prince. Smiling, he got down on one knee. Her breath caught in her throat. He was so handsome. Was her frog prince about to propose? He kissed her hand and said, "I'm glad you finally kept your word, my lady. Now I must go." With that, he left the princess sitting by the well. So our first question is, what happened to the princess's ball? How did she get her ball back? So in this picture, we see how she received her ball back. The frog brought her ball back to her. The ball, the princess's ball, fell in the well. She got her ball back because the frog returned it to her. What happened at dinner? What promise did the princess break? At dinner, the frog had the princess promise to return the ball. However, instead, the princess threw the frog out the window. What was the princess doing when she met the frog again years later? Years later, the princess was snacking by the well, wondering who to marry, when she heard the frog's voice. What words describe the princess in the beginning of the story? What words describe her at the end of the story? So we can look at the beginning of the story to find some words to describe her, and we can look at the end of the story to describe her. Number 5, the story says, her breath caught in her throat. What does the author mean by this sentence? Her breath caught in her throat. We see that sentence right here. Her breath caught in her throat. So maybe we can look at the sentence before the sentence to figure out what that might mean. Number 6, why does the princess invite the frog to eat with her by the well? So we can see that over here in the beginning of the second, or actually the third section of the story. Number 7, how does the princess react when she sees the frog turn into a prince? Why is this likely her reaction? We can see that part where he became a prince over here. The frog hopped up, the princess shared her plate, and the frog turned into a prince. What does the prince do at the end of the story? Why does he respond this way? He kissed her hand and said, I'm glad you finally kept your word, my lady. Now I must go. So the question's really asking you, why did he go? I hope this was helpful.